talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there, the fire is now gone.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force. Hungry for the money, free course meal. I send my name for the bill, and I'ma pay that, always keep it real. I'm independent, I don't need no deal. I'm Jaws on the beat, I got a flow that kills. Do my thing with a few G's, Lauryn Hill. I'm always on the grind looking for success. I wanna live good, no, nothing less. So say my name, say my name, say my name. I say it as many times until it's in your brain. Imprinted, blink 3 times and you missed it. Keep up with your boy, life is a choice, you better choose the right one. She wanna say my name when the lights off.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there, the fire is now gone.
Yeah, so say my name out loud. If it's whispered and quiet, that don't count. Scream from the top of your lungs loud and proud. We go places where checks don't bounce. Want more, yeah, we want more. Cause we came from the basement, we're on the first floor now. Chasing greatness, never gonna burn out. Rip down the rules and break through doors now.
Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there, the fire is now gone.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force. Hungry for the money, free course meal. I send my name for the bill, and I'ma pay that, always keep it real. I'm independent, I don't need no deal. I'm Jaws on the beat, I got a flow that kills. Do my thing with a few G's, Lauryn Hill. I'm always on the grind looking for success. I wanna live good, no, nothing less. So say my name, say my name, say my name. I say it as many times until it's in your brain.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns.
Afternoon all. So I figured again I would jump on today instead of working on that track again though. I figured we'd break down this release because I believe it's coming out very early next week, and it's been sat on my hard drive for about 2 years, so I'm looking forward to actually coming out. So I thought we'd break down a little bit of who, what, where, why, when and how. And it's not a massive track, so I should get away with it. Won't that be nice? How is everyone today? So what should we start with? I think for the most part we've used a lot of samples, chopped up breaks, all the bass and everything's probably going to be massive. Got some vocal layers to break down. Happy days. If people got any questions about the track or what I've done, how I got a particular sound, throw it in the chat and we'll try and break it down. So let's see, what do we start off with? So just the simplest break. The fact it's named main break probably means that I made it out of something and bounced it into a break. We just got a filter bringing it in at the start. And so I use and abuse it, I just use the EQ. Just extra little ramp at the start just to really bring that last hit in, and then we actually take it away and we've got a little roll in just here. And then that little under break, so it feels a lot faster once we got that under it. Just another little 2-step going underneath it. That just helps it move on, feel a lot quicker without changing anything. So we go from that right there is the fundamental that it all sits on. Then we've got a kick layer, it says sine kick, so yeah, it's just a kick I've made in Alchemy. So that will just be layering in. The reason I would have done that most of the time is to get the kick at a really specific frequency so it's in tune with everything else. That's all it is, that little whoop. Just in there as a layer supporting the break. Super heavy distorted break to go for that old kind of feel. Then there's a top line to the kick as well. Just that tiny little clicking noise. So when we start putting it all together, we get a nice big break. And we've got my snare sharp, and this is version 159. Yeah, that's gotten to a ridiculous point now, but I use that snare all the time. It's a snare I made in FM8 in about 2016, and it just keeps coming over project to project because it just cuts through in every mix. Super simple. So putting them all together, then we get our full break. The very last thing, just to add a little bit of air to it, we've got our little white noise snare, also made in Alchemy. In terms of mixing on the drums, there's not a huge amount because I've processed the breaks and I've designed some of the sounds themselves. There's no need for it. One thing I will have a look at is on the main break, which has got that really kind of heavy distorted feel, because I wanted to go for that sort of 90s two-step break. The way I'm doing that is by using 2 sets of R bass and kind of using and abusing it. So what R bass does, it generates a sine wave at a set frequency, and then you can push that into the gain and it distorts and generates harmonics as well. So if I take both of them off, it'll be really tame. So super clean, right? Get both of those in there. Now it's super weighty and distorted. And as well, you see I've got 43 Hertz and 96 Hertz. So obviously a division of the two, so they're harmonics going up at different scales. What we can do, I'll show you real quickly how I would have come to that conclusion, or something close to it. If we grab HEQ, because it's got this keyboard on it, and let's see if I put what key we're in, it's probably G or something like that. It's a project, I haven't set the key, it's probably in G. Let's see if we can find out. So on the keyboard here, let's just use this purple note. Hopefully you guys can see this. If I select a note, it's going to snap this to a particular frequency. What do we have? Do we have 93? What was it? 96. Let's see if we can find a note that's around there. Okay, so there's a note around 98, so I probably would have tuned it up, which is bang on G, which means if I went down the scale and took G1, that's going to be in the 40 region as well. 46, is there a 43? There's a 44 on F. Either way, they're going to be within the scale of the music we were using based on the harmonics in the break. So I've matched them up to everything else, so it all sounds right. That's why I've done that way, and that's what gives it that massive, weighty, distorted feel. And what we got on, yeah, just a big old roll off on there, and that's pretty much it. It's probably got its own bus as well, yeah. So this would be the drum bus with everything in. And if we go to this section here, we've got some extra hi-hats and bits in, but again, there's no real processing on them. Cool, so we've got some extra stereo claps and bits like that in there. Processing wise, not a massive amount. Tokyo Dawn compressor on there. Tokyo Dawn Slick EQ on there. I think at the time I was probably working with TDR and doing a video series for them, which is why they're on there back to back like that. I end up doing that a lot if I'm working with companies and their plugins. I get to produce my music and use their plugins, make the videos. It's one way I make income from my music, so that effectively I can take 2.5 years if I want to release this track. It doesn't matter, it's paid for itself in the process. So yeah, nice big bump look, sort of in the what, probably about 700 region. We could see on here. Yeah, 600 or so. Yeah, just a nice big boost. That's obviously just bringing a nice area out there in the whole drum break. And I would have probably come to that conclusion from the final mixdown stage. It just needed that boost up in there, and I do it to the whole drum break. At this point I've got them sounding as I like. We're going to process as a whole, and then we've got FabFilter Pro MB, just with a little bit of taming on the high end. Look. That'll be, I've made this big old boost here, and it's obviously just brought a little bit up in 5k that I just wanted to keep tamed, which is fine. So we've done it that way, and that's it for processing on there. Let's just see if it actually makes any difference. Let's have a listen to the drums, and I'll bring the plugins back in. Yeah, so the EQ really brings out the body of the snare, and the compressor actually makes the most difference. It glues everything together. It feels like one big drum kit, which exactly what we are after. So next main section of the track is the bass. I've got it split up into sort of different basses and leads as the track changes. I think just about everything was made in massive on this one. Let's have a look. As usual, I've got complete control hosting everything. It's just way easier for linking automation and things. Oh, okay. It is literally a sample that I've taken and made into something. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've repitched the sample in Contact to make it. And there's a whole bunch of processing going on it in terms of like EQ, R-bass, channel EQ, and it's being limited. As you can see, the channels are kinda copied, but then I've got transient designers and things going on as well. So it lays with the Piz like this. Just working in tandem to build sort of a bit of suspense. There's a nice high pitch thing going on, there's a low pitch going on, and it leaves loads of room in the middle to have a little play around with effects, so we end up with this.
Say my name out loud.
Of course, we've like set that precedent. When we bring all the mids in, you're kind of just overwhelmed at this big burst of sound coming in, and then both basses switch out then, and perhaps, yeah, that's massive. What's this guy? That's a pitch sample again. That's cool. So it's the same pitch sample but slightly different processing, and there's, if I remember rightly, a whole bunch of automation going on, like ridiculous amounts of automation in this track to make the sounds work as they do. So I'm just using the EQ filter here just to pop this out at key moments. You can see at the start of each 4 bars. Yeah, it just gives it a bit of performance. It's not as flat as it usually would be, and then that's laid with this. No, that's laid with this one, and that's all the weight, and that is massive. And it'll probably just be a distorted sine wave. That's what I usually do for a sub. Yeah, no preset loaded. So yeah, it's on sine wave and then fed back, so it's really heavily pushed into itself. So distorted sine just to make that. That gives us all our weight and bass, and the automation brings the life to it. Now, I usually do quite a bit on my bosses as well for bass, so if I take everything together for that main one, we'll find that we've got this great big lift going on, and it's bringing up the high end, but when I automate it and really flick the high end out for that moment, this will catch it. Yeah, it just helps whip it up really quickly. So it's on a super fastish attack, quick release. It just helps it whip up just so your ears catch it quickly, and then it's gone again. And that's going across the whole bass line, and then, ironically, it's compressed and controlled. But literally, what, a couple of dB, just controlling it in there. Just in those moments where it gets out of hand, the control is just there. We've then got Neutron, and this tells you how old it is. It's Neutron 1. I think we're on version 3 now. EQ with just some really minor adjustments, just catching some rogue frequencies that were against other things in the mix, and the exciter adding a bit of distortion on the top end but leaving the low end alone. Didn't need any extra harmonics in there. And then again, another compressor, this time a sidechain compressor though, so this is my FET D&B sidey, which means if I put a kick drum in it, it usually works pretty solidly to take everything away. You can just see it bouncing there with the kick drum. And that's it, so the bass will work in tandem with the drums pretty well, like this. So that's the fundamentals that build up the track. We've built up all of our drum break and got everything in there working together. We haven't got the flare for the drums here, which are the extra layers going into the bus. That'll be the whole lot. And notice in this section there's not really any other instrumentation because the vocals end up filling out all the space. So it's pretty much just my bass bus, the drums bus, and the vocals for this whole section.
Say my name out loud, talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud, oh, fair, the fire is now gone. Say my name.
And then just to signify that the verse is about to start, just got a nice little roll in here which helps bring it in, and a little like reverse hey thing going on.
The fire is now gone. The fire.
And this bit here is actually a lead in for the first bit of the verse. Yeah, so you get to hear it as it kind of rises in, and it snaps straight into the verse, which I found worked really well. So
the fire is now gone.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force. Hungry for the money, free course meal. I send my name for the bill, and I'ma pay that, always keep it drill. I'm independent, I don't need no deal. I'm jaws on the beat, I got flow that kills. Do my ting with a few G's, Lauren Hill. I'm always on the grind looking for success. I wanna live good, no, nothing less. Just say my name, say my name, say my name. I say it as many times until it's in your brain.
Cool, so let's break down what we did in the verse section. So the verse is split into two, really. It's the first section, which is carrying over the bass line from the first one, but I've mixed and processed the bass line separately, so it sits in this bit of the track, but it's still the same sound as it was before. It's just a little bit pluckier this time. It's got a little bit more high end. I mean, you can just see the two EQ profiles here side by side. You can see how wildly different they are, but it's the same sound, same melody, same rhythm, so it kind of translates over and just cracks on nicely. It's pretty much what we're after, right? And then nothing else really gets added. Like the drums have got an extra layer. We've got some like claps and extra bits going on, but it's all about the vocal. All right, so we've got a lead vocal, which I believe is this guy.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force.
And I've got two ad-libs which are left and right, even though I've named them both left.
Lost in the sauce. Lost in the force.
If you're in headphones, they should feel like they're left and right, kind of sitting behind you, and that's just so when the vocals all playing, it kind of gives you like a all around you feel, right?
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force.
Like processing wise, pretty much went over what I usually do yesterday, but CLA vocal, again, settings are going to be completely custom to that vocal, but I use that plugin loads, gained right down afterwards because I compressed it quite hard. Neutron 2 will be doing some de-essing and other fun jazz, got the exciter pushing it a little bit. Definitely loads of de-essing going on. 3 bands of it, in fact, just taking out bits of the vocal.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force. Hungry for the money, free course.
doing some mad control there, and then another de-esser right in the end, usually a bit harder. Use Pro DS a lot for this kind of thing. Taking out will be what, up to 6 dB further on those really harsh bits that it captures just within this narrow frequency range I've got set here.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force.
That's just because a lot of the words in this particular track have got S's sounds, and it just needs a lot of DS-ing. Simple as that, really. That's it. Nothing else changes, even though we kind of signified that a load's going to change here.
The fire is now gone.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force.
We got a nice transition because we introduced the vocal and we let the listener know something's going to happen with a little roll in. Then about halfway, we just break the beat entirely.
Do my ting with a few G's, Lauren Hill.
And then the second part starts and we bring the strings in from the start, and the whole second part of the verse starts.
I'm always on the grind looking for success. I wanna live good, no nothing less. So say my name, say my name, say my name. I say it as many times until it's in your brain. Imprinted, blink 3 times and you missed it. Keep up with your boy, life is a choice, you better choose the right one. She wanna say my name with her lights off.
And that goes back into the hook.
She wanna say my name with her lights off.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, fair, the fire is now gone.
Yeah, so say my name out loud.
Wait, and we've got something slightly different on this, on the second part. We've just got that little rising vocal. We also take a lot more of the bass out, so it gets really dull here, right?
She wanna say my name with her lights off.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh.
Again, hook's the same distance as before. We've then got a little half verse, kind of like a bridge verse, into the breakdown.
The fire is now gone.
Yeah, so say my name out loud. If it's whispered and quiet, that don't count. Scream from the top of your lungs loud and proud. We got places where checks don't bounce. Want more, yeah, we want more. Cause we came from the basement, we're on the first floor now. Chasing greatness, never gonna burn out. Rip down the rules and break through doors now.
Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Talking to.
That's pretty much the song broken down. Second verse, second like part of the track, sorry. Pretty much the same thing. There's just different automations going on and little bits that are slightly audibly different from the previous one. But that's it. So, for example, we've got a much longer breakdown at the end.
The place, King Kong.
Say my name out loud.
And we slowly deconstruct the song as we go out. You can see bits start to leave until we're just down to like this. Yeah, pretty much the same structure, just a few bits that change added in. Just at a glance, you can see we've got some different rhythms going on, but nothing majorly different. It carries on with that same vibe and tone we set in the start. And the biggest thing really is in the breakdown how we've got what's called, or at least what I call, the wind up here, which should slowly bring up a rise over the entire breakdown. It's there literally from the start, building up. And then I've got my windy atonal pitch, which starts at halfway or just under halfway, bringing it in. All set to the BPM of the track. And this guy right here. The only time it occurs is in this breakdown. Just another melody to sit under the piz. I do not listen to Brazilian trap music. I might like it. I generally like anything that I can listen to and get into in terms of like a production style. What makes it particularly Brazilian? Like, how's it not just trap? The other thing I was going to say is in the breakdown, everything finishes a little bit early, just gives that little pause. So after it all winds up, it just stops for the briefest of moments before the track drops in, which gives a good effect. So let's just roll through that again.
Break down the rules and break through doors now.
Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud.
That little pause just to let the vocal sing through, and then the whole track just rumbles in here. Just
say my name out loud.
And we get all our bass and frequencies back. And that pretty much, guys, breaks it down. Those of you who are watching, any questions, throw it in. Otherwise, I am going to leave it there for you guys to go over and break it down. And hopefully, you'll have a listen to the track when it comes out next month. So it will be as unders, and it is called Say My Name. And yeah, I'll come on and break it down again, probably, or edit this into a full-on video.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there. The fire is now gone.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force. Hungry for the money, free course meal. I send my name for the bill, and I'ma pay that, always keep it drill. I'm independent, I don't need no deal. I'm jaws on the beat, I got a flow that kills. Do my ting with a few G's, Lauryn Hill. I'm always on the grind looking for success. I wanna live good, no, nothing less. So say my name, say my name, say my name. I say it as many times until it's in your brain. Imprinted, blink 3 times and you missed it. Keep up with your boy, life is a choice, you better choose the right one. She wanna say my name when the lights off.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there. The fire is now gone.
Yeah, so say my name out loud. If it's whispered and quiet, that don't count. Scream from the top of your lungs loud and proud. We go places where checks don't bounce. Want more, yeah, we want more. We came from the basement, we're on the first floor now. Chasing greatness, never gonna burn out. Rip down the rules and break through doors now.
Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Oh. Say my name out loud. Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there. The fire is now gone.
Hold up, don't get lost in the sauce. Jedi mind tricks, don't get lost in the force. Hungry for the money, free course meal. I send my name for the bill, and I'ma pay that, always keep it drill. I'm independent, I don't need no deal. I'm jaws on the beat, I got a flow that kills. Do my ting with a few G's, Lauryn Hill. I'm always on the grind looking for success. I wanna live good, no, nothing less. So say my name, say my name, say my name. I say it as many times until it's in your brain.
Say my name out loud. Talking to me through hymns. Say my name out loud. Oh, there. The fire is now gone.
I want 40,000 fans going wild. I say my name like Destiny Child. Got the X Factor, full Simon Cowell. Somebody ring the alarm. Flows well lubricated, lip balm. Flies up and down the beat like strip clubs. Mash up the place, King Kong. Mash up the place, King Kong.